Now, you mentioned not being a, metalhead, but I have to pick into your past a little bit. I actually had the pleasure of seeing you on the Penetrator tour with Ted Nugent when you were his lead singer.
Did you really?
Long time ago. It was at a place in Buffalo, New York. It was awesome, and that's when I was first, when I first found you, if you will. And I'm wondering what that was like and how that transition went from, Ted Nugent to Bad Company and the poppy side of things.
Well, it was an interesting transition because I learned my skills and all my craft with Ted Nugent. I learned how to get through a show even when you're feeling like death. And I learned good discipline about, drinking or no drugs. Don't ever drink before a show. Don't ever get messed up during a show. You're there, you're there to perform, and what you do afterwards is your business. But when you perform, you're clean and you're sober, and you're there to do a job and enjoy it. And I learned that very early on with Ted. There was no messing around with Ted. You got one chance. If you screwed up, you're gone. So you had to stick. The train had to stay on the tracks. I've got to say that with Bad Company, it was completely the opposite. The train was barely holding onto the tracks when I joined the band, and it didn't really stay on the tracks terribly long after I'd been in the band. It was a whole different philosophy on drugs and drinking and the rest of it, and it was not that I got involved in it. It was, it's just one of those things where they had certain habits and which I didn't necessarily approve of. But whatever, it's horses for courses, I guess.
Yeah, everybody's different. Now, but you did make a significant contribution while you were in Bad Company with the band for, 10 years?
Yes. When I tried to make a contribution against all the odds, I wasn't very happy with the first record I made with Bad Company. That record was called Fortune. It wasn't a particularly good record, to be honest with you, and I wasn't overly happy with the production. I wasn't overly happy with the performances, and the material was somewhat lacking. So I wanted to toughen things up again, and I wanted to fire the keyboard player because I didn't think we needed keyboards in Bad Company. It's never really been a synthesizer band, and that didn't go down very well with Nick and Simon. They wanted to keep the guy, and I said, well, it's silly for the guy that's not going to use it. So that was the beginning of the turmoil within the Bad Company, and when it came to songwriting, the record label would say to us, we need a record, and you need to start maybe recording in January or February. And so I would say, okay, well, then we have to write some songs. So I would go away and write songs with Terry Thomas, the producer. And the other guys wouldn't write any songs, so they thought they could just turn up in the studio with just a couple of ideas and work on it there. It's like, no, we haven't got time for that, So inevitably it ended up where I was contributing, Terry and I were contributing more songs to each album than they were. And that's when the real resentment within Bad Company started, because they were very angry that we'd done our work and were presenting finished songs and I think good songs. And they weren't coming up with much at all, so they were a little bit resentful of that.
Now, on Circus Bar, you did a couple of remakes from Bad Company tunes. How about that in Holy Water? How did you choose which tunes you wanted to redo?
I wanted to do just a couple of songs, primarily, to be perfectly honest with you, I wanted to do a couple of songs so that when people saw them or heard them, they go, oh, that's who that was. Because, the Bad Company band is pretty anonymous.
Right.
I don't think many people know the individuals in the group. So they might know the voice, they might know the guitar sound, they might know the drums, but they don't know the names. So I wanted something to hang their coat on, like, an oral hook so they can recognize who it was. And I chose those two songs. How about that? A, because it's a fun song, and it's a light song, and it's an uplifting, good feel-good factor song. But with that one, we recorded it play, and it wasn't a machine. So whereas with Bad Company, we actually used pretty much a drum machine on that track. And then we moved on to Holy Water, and Holy Water was a whole different kettle of fish, because that song I always felt there was more to that song than we'd really captured on the original with Bad Company. With the original Bad Company song, of course, it was started off with that rock and roll guitar riff and moved into a thundering backbeat, and it was a great version. But don't get me wrong, I still love doing it, but I felt there was more that could be wrung out of that song. And once we took away the heavy guitar and just played a basic acoustic piano, the whole song came to life again. And we didn't even put drums on the track. We put a couple of toms on the track, but apart from that, there's no drum. There's strings, there's acoustic guitars, there's piano, and I think it's a better version than the original. It's certainly more spiritual and more emotional, I guess.
I did notice a lot of the songs are definitely drawn from the reflective, spiritual type lyrics. I can only liken that to your experiences and just what comes out when you're sitting by that lake that you love so much.
Well, it's actually quite funny, because I'm not a religious person at all. In fact, I don't really believe in much, apart from the fact that I happen to be here. I don't believe in a god or a single god or anything like that. But I certainly feel emotions, and I like to try and write things that are simple and that people can get the grasp of easily. And the way to do that is just to write your feelings. Just write. Don't try and write how you feel. And lyrically, that's what I do. And it's just, I don't know, it works for me. It might not work for everybody, but for me,
Well, you seem to nail it, especially in the fact that you could come up with such lyrics in such a short period of time. I've tried to write things, and sometimes I'm beating myself in the head trying to get the right lyrics. It just seems to flow with you, and I think that's awesome.
No, it's just, it doesn't really, well, if I was writing every day, I'm sure it wouldn't flow, but I didn't write for 13 years. So I had a lot of empty thoughts rolling around, a lot of emotions and sort of feelings that I'd never expressed on record before. And I think they all just came out in one big hodgepodge. And all power to it. I can't be the sort of guy that sits down and writes songs every day. I think that would be like having a real job, and God knows I didn't do very well when I did have a real job, so I'm very happy to be able to do what I do.